All right, let's do this. RotoRun Solo Run edition of the Solver Series 1.07. Apologies for no Solver Series last weekend. This is peak crazy time right now. And, we've been traveling back to back weekends here. I'm actually supposed to be leaving right now as we speak, but had to get this one in for the people there. Lots of fun stuff to talk about. Hopefully, we made up for it by having Hayden Winks on for the solver this week on Wednesday. I thought it was really cool. He shared his utilization of the slide tabs and how he would adjust for BBM. Not going to spoil that. Go back and check that one out, but found it very interesting because it wasn't exactly what I had been doing. So that was a fun exercise for BBM in particular. We've had 4 games preseason action. It is Friday morning, August the 8th right now. So we had 3 last night, playing a little bit of catch up on that. Did not watch them in real time outside of the last maybe 4 drives of the Seattle game there. Saw Jalen Milroe play a little bit there. I mean, sneaky shades of rookie year Russell Wilson. I don't know. They bring in a slightly less heralded rookie prospect. A little bit later in the draft, athleticism, pro style offense, NFL ready, all these kind of things. Just has to upseed a veteran that they brought in the same year. I don't know, man. Story arcs. I don't know if I'm galbraining a little too far. I thought he looked pretty nice last night. Obviously, some blemishes, throughout it. I'll go back and watch the entirety of those ones. But a couple things jogging my memory right now for topics for the show. Obviously, we had the Keenan Allen signing this week, and it really led me to a peaks and valleys kind of conversation. Use the ADP tracker to talk about that. And then my number one exposed player, who I just uploaded my exposures to the Best Ball Explorer and hadn't done an update since about draft 70, I want to say. It's a little skewed because a lot of it is the 6-person drafts there from the Badge Bros Brawl. I think about 80 of them now, but we're up to 200 and some odd. I haven't fully gone into it. I'm saving that for the stream here. But it just Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson last night gets blown up on a missed blitz pickup, gets blown up off the edge there. His finger goes the complete east-west wrong direction that you want it to go. And I believe he's going to be my highest exposed quarterback here. So just the peaks and valleys of these games. And, I'm not shutting it down too quickly there. But for a guy who the knock has been, hey, he's got to stay healthy. And his whole coaching staff and managerial staff is all like, hey, this guy's got to stay healthy to get blown up on the second series of his preseason. Not great, Bob. Not great. But it kind of sparked my mind to do a fun little draft board look back exercise to last year at this point in time and kind of like juxtapose what's going on there. And then we'll do some slow drafts with the solver. And then time permitting, I think I can mix in a fast draft here too. So maybe a little bit of a longer version of the solver series. But as is the case when you get the long-winded one on the mic like me. Let's jump on over Best Ball Explorer here. Here's the portfolio, 219, about 3K in entry fees thus far, all on the Black and Yellow Dog app, Underdog Fantasy there. And a large majority of this, admittedly, I think is going to be Batch Bros Brawl because it's our contest. It's up right now. If you guys have not got in there, 6-person draft lobby is so fun, so fast, 20-second clocks, fast only, a pretty heavy weighted week 17 format there. It's not going to shock anybody that I call it my favorite contest on the platform there. Been having a lot of fun drafting those, but 86% full right now, almost 87% full. So get in there while the getting's good. There you go. 73 done for me thus far in that one. 54 BBMs, a couple maxed of these time box contests. A couple maxed of the $100 price point there. Just overarching. Take a look at the exposures. Actually, guys, there's 2 ways. You can look at your portfolio exposure by clicking this button here and just kind of seeing it across all the sites. But when I know I'm exclusively using one, I actually jump over to this exposure tab And then, here's the jump down from this, but I know I'm just only using the underdog. So that's like kind of the overall view one. But seeing as though I do not have any exposure on any other platforms, just go ahead and take a look at this. This is just the 12-person drafts, so we're not skewing a little top of the board heavy there. Jalen Waddle's still up here. Nothing crazy right now, guys. 21%, 19s, 17s. I'm a little bit of a flat exposure, bro. Obviously, the Cam Scatabo injury in camp this week doesn't have me feeling all that great, nor does the Anthony Richardson injury in the preseason. And it's kind of what is going to stem this next little board looking at exercise that I was talking about, but still bullish Miami here. I did say something on the Wednesday show alongside Hayden that, like, asymmetrical offensive bets that I just want to bet on the entirety of the offense right now relative to price point. That Miami was up there for me. Dallas was up there for me. The Chargers were up there for me, but that was a little bit before this week took place. So maybe some shifting values there. And then just Anthony Richardson plus the Colts. Those were kind of the four that I highlighted, and glad that my exposures are kind of reflecting that. Getting a lot of Tampa stuff in here too. The Baker stuff also makes a lot of sense that it's tethered to that Miami stuff because it's a lot of week 17 correlation in that isolated game. Keenan Allen's up here in a decent way at that 15%. So hopefully we capitalize on a little bit of CLV there. Falling in love with Loveland based on the comments, but I got to mix in a little bit more Warren in my life here. I think he's a bit further down. Matthew Golden, I like that. He seems to be a bit of a riser this week. George Pickens feels good. All in all, kind of comfortable where I'm at. Would much prefer if Richardson and Scatabo were not banged up right now. But also, take it all with a grain of salt. No closing line value exists until the end of draft season, and then we watch it play out and see the results. So lots of times for lots of things to shift. And I'm not going to get too high, too low. I guess we could look position by position real quick here. Richardson to Baker, Bryce Young, that one kind of surprised me, but just kind of doing that back stack. And then the Dak stuff that I alluded to. Not a ton of elite quarterback in the 12 persons portfolio, balancing it out a little bit in the 6 persons. But yeah, kind of doing the scroll thing at the quarterback position this year. Christian McCaffrey, I don't know if you want to call it good news, but got a little bit of news this week in terms of Isaac Guerrero is going to miss some time, and James is going to miss some time there too in that backfield. So I don't know if that makes it any more bullish for Christian McCaffrey, but there's going to be a lot of snaps for a guy that we were accustomed to being the number one player in fantasy, as little as 2 years ago. Love the Achane stuff. Love the Chase Brown stuff. Bengals played 2 series, I guess, two series, maybe 3 series with the first team offense last night, and they looked every bit of what we expect the Bengals offense to look like. So did the Bengals defense, though. So that is going to make for some fun, just fantasy friendly game environments in general there. Nothing crazy to say here. I'm not in love with that Caleb Johnson percentage. I'm not going to lie. Maybe just kind of like a mental tier break at points there. But we'll see how it ages. Wow. The Cooper Kupp one catches me off guard. Did not think I was that high on Cooper Kupp, but maybe it might just be a tier break thing or a mental tier break thing there. Just kind of taking shots on these Green Bay pass catchers, Reed, Golden, Romeo Dobbs. This all kind of checks out decently flat to me. Olave, Rashid Shaheed's getting some buzz this week, and Nick Underhill is one of the best beat reporters around. The ETR guys are quick to say that one there. So he's been singing the praises of Rashid Shaheed. So maybe want to get a little bit more balanced out between the Shaheed and Olave stuff there, but like that I have a decent amount of both right now. And then this Cade Otton one, man, this is just a lazy back stack that I'm falling into with the Baker stuff and with the Miami stuff. I got to pump the brakes on this because I am not this bullish on Cade Otton, especially with Ibuka getting so much steam in camp. Godwin maybe not ready for week 1, but I think there's probably better ceiling shot bets at the back end of draft boards, like Theo Johnson, like JT Sanders, that are down here in my portfolio, than doing this K dot and lazy backstack. So maybe falling into some kind of like bad patterns with that one. But yeah, interesting exercise. Obviously, this was kind of just like the start of it. I just wanted to do kind of like the last time we looked at my portfolio, I had like 40 or 50 drafts. And I mean, I still have a shit ton of slow drafts going right now. So this is going to keep boosting. And then I got, 100 more BBMs to do. So yeah, we're gonna keep plowing through here, but I definitely did want to just like take a look in general at what was going down as a macro for the portfolio. Um, yeah, I just switched to include the Bachelor's Brawl stuff, and you can see I definitely have a concerted stance on or concerted effort to take a stand on Worthy, Henderson, and Jonathan Taylor and Ken Walker as like kind of tier breaks right now in that contest. So yeah, interesting to just lump that in and see what happens. Anyways, still early. I mean, we're still front end of August. We still got 2.5, 3 weeks of solid drafting. Weekly winners closed this week. Got a couple of those left on the clock that we'll take a peek at in a second here and draft them in the slow draft section. But yeah, all in all, just a good time to check in. And we'd primarily been checking in on Nez's stuff. And Nez not being here this week also was kind of just like, hey, let's take a little look at mine right now. But yeah, one thing I really wanted to talk about was looking at just like draft boards and allotting capital associated with draft boards, right? And you could switch to this draft board view and you could kind of see like the back end of these scatter shots here, how I'm not really overly concentrated on anyone other than that Anthony Richardson play that I've been making as a tack on third quarterback in, as many drafts as I possibly can. And then that Kate Otten kind of might just be a little bit of a mistake right now. And it's pretty like, spread. A lot of red, a lot of orange, a lot of whatever. And that's kind of how I like to play. And I don't necessarily want to be fully results oriented, but I'm going to explain as to why right here and why I like where I'm at right now with that sort of stuff and not getting densely concentrated, because I think we lose sight of I don't want to be the fun police here. I don't want to be the fun police. I love the off-season victory lapping. I love the community dunking on each other. I love the flexing your exposures. I love the fake exposures as a bit. I love all this shit. I love all the niche jokes within the niche jokes of the community. But I do think in football, compared to other sports, especially when we're playing NBA every single day, we're playing baseball every single day, that we do lose sight of like no news and being more or less impactful than it actually is. And our knee jerk reactions are like too crazy just because there's not a whole lot going on, even when there's, preseason football going on. So it's very interesting to just see. I don't know. Like, it's not like we're dealing with a sample after week 4 that like Taj Brooks is RB1 now or something, and people are flexing exposures. It's like we're flexing exposures on a report of a report about a report kind of thing. So I just wanted to go back in time and juxtapose this and kind of like the heat map of where we're at now and how thin and how many misses and how many zeros there are. And I did not preload a board. I didn't anything. I'm just assuming this is organically going to happen. Who knows? Maybe it blows up in my face and doesn't confirm my priors here. But let's see. I'm going to go to the results of last year. I'm going to click on the week 1 through 14 stuff here. 370 drafts last year. There's my 150 BBMs here. Maybe if there's like a time-stamped one. July 29, July 20. Badge Bros National Best Ball. Okay, let's National Best Ball Day. So July 17th of last year. Okay. Let's take a look at what the board from last year just looks like. Actually, it pops out in a secondary window here. So give me a second. Share this screen instead. How's that looking for everybody? Looks decent, right? Okay, let's see. There we go. Okay, good enough. Good enough. Maybe give it one more zoom there. Two more zooms. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Shout out to Underdog for the new draft boards too. These are pretty cool. Guys, latch on to my Twitter feed there at roto_run to provide some feedback. Head of draft games and the draft games community is all in the mentions there, talking about the draft board, what we want to see changed, all that sort of stuff. Feedback is being heard. Amendments are being made. I'm a fan of this on web. I do like the addition of the player images. I do like the addition of like the arrows and stuff. I think the number one piece of feedback is that people want to see like this 2.7 change to an actual overall number or an actual overall number to be added in this blank space above the player's head. Also, full names. Full names would be cool if we could change the font to fit that. But outside of that, I think it looks pretty slick. But your voices are always heard. So drop it in the comments below, drop it on the Twitter feed, drop it in the Discord. They're always listening, that sort of thing. Okay. Anyways, obvious reasons why this team aged well for us. Jamar Chase at 5 ends up being like the guy that you need there. But I think what I really want to illustrate is just scrolling the F down to like what we call all these $1 picks at the back here and just kind of laugh at some of the names that we thought were getting burned last year and how high they were going. And, we can spin zone it into, were they getting camp buzz? Were they getting here? Let me just scan it real quick. Mike Williams, didn't even end up on playing for the Steelers for the entirety of the year. Didn't matter whatsoever. He's a 10th round pick here. Devin Singletary gets all the hype in the world after Saquon leaves. He's on the Hard Knocks show. They're calling him Motor. He's a Dayball guy. Dayball finally got his guy in the backfield. I don't know what, 2 or 3 usable weeks. We were drafting him in round 10, right? Jalen Polk, like just a complete nothing burger. Gabe Davis, complete nothing burger. Jahan Dotson, a complete nothing burger. Pearsall gets shot and then moves 100 different times in the pick department and then ends up having 2 usable weeks at the end of the season. Kendre Miller didn't matter. Wright didn't matter. Lloyd didn't matter. Ty Chandler didn't matter, even though they brought in Cam Akers off the street and bring him, or from the Texans, but basically off the street. Jermaine Burton doesn't matter at all. Yoshi Voss is the guy there. Like, it's just, Kamani Vidal's best game of his life was in the Hall of Fame game this year. Like, he doesn't factor in at all. So a long-winded way of saying, like, I'm glad this worked out exactly as I intended. But like, these games are fucking hard, man. And they're really hard to nail these picks at the back end of boards. Don't get tank locked. Don't overreact like crazy to the preseason games this weekend. I mean, we can look at a board from this week alone where it's like, Keenan Allen probably didn't even get drafted and KLS is moved up to round 16 based on one preseason game because it's the only, manageable metric we had to go off of. And now he's just going to be like, potentially could be a complete zero. Like, I don't know. So I just really think it's a cool exercise to bring it to people's attention. This is what we were doing last year. These are the mistakes we're doing. And we're just doubling down on these mistakes every single year over and over and over again. Now, I understand that the player pool of usable players in fantasy football is way more condensed than other sports, that most of these guys don't matter just because they don't see the field enough. And that's kind of just evergreen, right? It's a very, very difficult exercise to parse through. I'm not kind of trying to preach, be a flat exposure bro and only have, 8% down here of everybody and mix and match no matter what. I'm just trying to illustrate range of outcomes, because there's not really even any monster smashes down here. Like Jalen McMillions, McMillan was probably a good smash down here. The quarterbacks, they at least have some projectable output. McCarthy got hurt, but Bo Nix down here in the 18th round, like that's a smash. Tracy, that's a pretty big smash. Like it's just, there's far more misses than hits. And I just don't want us to, as we're moving into this peak preseason time, to get like way out over our skis because of preseason is kind of the long and the short of it. Like a lot of the news in parentheses that we get right now that we're overreacting to is just doesn't matter at all, right? And yeah, you're kind of better off blocking some of it out, kind of deal. Yeah, it's truly an art to filter what is important and what is not. Back to the ADP stuff that kind of led me to this was thinking about the KLS movement this week, thinking about the Amari and Hampton, and then just thinking about the Chargers from the snip snap, okay, over the last 2 weeks. So let me it isn't fully reflected in ADP yet, but if we zoom out to like four week window here, as you guys can see, I have Keenan Allen, Najee Harris, Trey Harris, Hampton, KLS, Ladd, and Herbert all on the screen here. Let's just use them as an isolated example of the conversation I'm just having about these hits and misses associated with the board, and we think we're sharp and sometimes we're not, and that sort of deal, right? The snip snap dynamic of this is Amari and Hampton on the left side of the board, 10 picks earlier. Okay, now we're so sharp. Najee has a bad situation. It was always going to be the rookie anyways. Coach Speak told us they were two peas in a pod anyways. We're pounding our chests. I'm overweight. Omari and Hampton. Then 1 week later, Najee back at practice. He's got a weighted vest on. Najee's got the visor on. How good are the eyes? I don't know. Is it as big a smash as we think it is? Oh, now Keenan Allen's in the mix. They play the Hall of Fame game. Everybody gets excited about KLS. KLS is rising like this, right? Apologies, I had a cough there. KLS is getting steam jobbed from the Hall of Fame game. Oh no, now they sign, Keenan Allen and bring him in. Everybody's flexing their Keenan Allen bags. Should Keenan Allen be, now up in the 12th round, the 14th round? Who knows, right? He signed for a third of the amount of money that Darius Slayton's going to get this year, right? It's just, there's so much moving stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like, damn, Chargers are looking good. I wish I had more pieces of the Chargers offense. And all of a sudden, Rashawn Slater's done for the year in practice, their best offensive lineman. So it's kind of like just the peaks and valleys of these games associated with what we're seeing on the draft boards, what we're seeing in particular at the back end of drafts, then what we're seeing flexed in people's exposures is this stuff flips on a dime and football's not even being played right now. So it's truly crazy. It's truly incredible. I'm a little bit like mansplaining right now. Apologies for that. I just thought it was a very interesting week and a very interesting isolated example to share kind of like a macro thought and macro takeaway. Yeah. Now watch me draft these teams, right? Watch me hit this drive. Let's jump on over to the slow drafts there. I believe we got a couple on the clock here. Oh yeah, we do. We got a bunch on the clock here to start off our day, kind of as we always do with some slow drafts here. We got a original Husky. We got a couple of those weekly winners. Hopefully you guys jammed some slow drafts at the buzzer to get some weekly winners exposure there. A format that we traditionally like to back weight, but is closed, at like August 7th this year. So people truly love weekly winners. Really cool to see there. Yeah, and then we got a couple eliminators in here as well. Eliminator is going at a rocket pace there. A huge hit this year with that head-to-head format forever. Definitely want some back-weighted buys in the eliminator format. In the weekly winners, we're kind of, in tune with stacking buys so that you have more usable pieces on isolated weeks to win weeks. Just kind of some macro there. Less concerned about, week 17 in both formats. But this first one, Husky, let's take a peek here. We got a 1-2-4 cooking, a Mahomes, Walker, Montgomery, Justin Jefferson, Ladd McConkey, Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams has been falling this week based on the Stafford back stuff. And then a Rashee Rice share at 43. I would like it to be a little bit later than that, but I got auto-picked that because I was not paying attention. And then I made the most of it by pulling Mahomes up a little bit and kind of like reaching on that stack. It looks like the solver wants me to stack it up with Travis Kelce. That was kind of my plan to begin with when I reached on Mahomes after getting, Rice given to me by an auto draft pick, which was, a little unfortunate there. So I'm go ahead pull him up there. I think Godwin is like an okay like falling value to grab here, like 10 picks past ADP, and then we could see if the guy on the end has two tight ends, Fries has one tight end. Could we push Kelsey to 102 when his ADP is 96? It's probably a little thin. So I'd rather make the bet on the totality of the offense here, especially when we don't have anyone at the tight end. So going to go ahead, select Kelsey there. 1, 2, 4, 1 there. Weekly winners here, a little less nuanced with like the correlation patterns here, but we got a Genty, Amon-Ra, Adams, and Kittle start. My guy Waddle's on the board there. Travis Hunter, Solver likes Travis Hunter here. The running backs do tend to go a little bit earlier in the weekly winners format. So considering Harvey and considering Travis Hunter here, I kind of gave my like half-baked Travis Hunter take the other day. Just he could be incredible. He could be their wide receiver one. We could be overdrafting Brian Thomas right now based on the ability of Travis Hunter. Could a player who, won the Heisman last year and won the best, what's it called? The Blitnikoff for the last, I probably butchered the shit out of that one, for best wide receiver in the nation there. Could he just be a true unicorn outlier talent and just smash this year in a Liam Cohen offense? Absolutely. But I am a little scared by the fact that, at the very least, even if he played like 30 or 40% of defensive snaps and played bull case 80 on offense, I am a little scared that he's still playing like 20% more snaps than anybody else at his position, right? Because those defense ones take wear and tear on your body as well. So my lazy comp has been this like Shohei Ohtani, where it's like Shohei Ohtani versus Aaron Judge is a flip of a coin, right? In baseball, it's, I don't know, throw your hands up. They're both amazing. That's kind of our stance at the 101 of draft boards. And it was like, well, give me the guy who's not going to be pitching because he's way more apt to get hurt. So take Aaron Judge instead, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with the Travis Hunter stuff, though I am incredibly intrigued by his upside, and maybe that's already baked into the price point here. Like maybe he should be going where like Tetaroa goes, or where, maybe even where Marv Harrison was going last year. Maybe he is that level of player that we should be concerned about. So anyways, long-winded way. Let's just take the ceiling shot in weekly winners here. The solver likes it. Let's have a little fun. Like there's the other side of my brain that's just like, bro, we play these games for fun. Sure, we want to win, but like, wouldn't it just be fun as fuck to have that dude on your team and cheer for that freak athletic player? Like, yeah, that sounds good. That's basically my Devin A. Chan stance. We got 2 picks to make on the corner here. Another weekly winners one. A little bit of a Cincinnati Bengals stack here with Chase, and then Ladd. And Ladd goes a little bit later in the weekly winners format, as you guys can see here. Solver likes DJ Moore. DJ Moore a little bit underpriced relative to his ETR ranking here. Tetaroa goes a lot later here. As you guys can see, quarterbacks get thrust up a little bit. Like Burrow didn't even make it back to us in the 4th, when sometimes in like BBM, he makes it back to us in like the 6th. So yeah, he gets pushed up in this one to this drafter right here at 46. I think it's definitely in consideration to take one running back and one wide receiver right here. I think I do kind of prefer Chuba. It's interesting that Kamara goes over Chuba in weekly winners, but Chuba goes over him in BBM. Maybe that's because of the back-weighted production, and we have a sample of Kamara, being quote unquote bad at the tail end of the season based on his age. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take DJ Moore as a sidekick, or Freudian slip, my bad. As the solver is suggesting here, and drop that one in. And I think I'm going to take running back here. I don't want to get completely froze out. I want to check my bye weeks for a second. 10, 10, 12. We're pretty scattered right now. Let's just take like a Chuba back weighted bye week there in weekly winners, play for the early portion of the season. Eliminator. Oh, it looks like we made half an eliminator pick and then we were on the clock again. That must have pissed off the room. This looks like just like a jam it in with Tyreek Hill here. Josh Jacobs, Jamar Chase. We could set up that kind of like double, but there's no reason for correlated stacks in my estimation in this format. Like it's kind of like a bonus. It actually might be a detriment when you spend this much draft capital on it in the eliminator. So I think Tyreek's fine. There's a lot of FUD around Tyreek right now. The coach speak stuff isn't great. Tua's talking about, he's got to rebuild and the relationships in the room. He's a bit of a wild card, and they have an out in his contract after this year. I think there's a non-zero chance. We talked about it all big board season. Like my spicy take on our draft preview show that was that Tyreek Hill was going to get traded on draft night. Like I thought it kind of like he was the way he was speaking, the way the team was speaking about him, the way last year went. Although granted, it's overstated how poor his season was last year, especially when he was dealing with the wrist. It just wasn't Tyreek Hill, He still was like a productive player. He just wasn't first round Tyreek Hill. So it was a little overstated that he was like awful last year. And a lot of those games were without Tua. The games with Tua, he was actually half decent. So anyways, I'm kind of talking myself in and out of Tyreek all at the same time. I think maybe we just go down to this Trey McBride pick here. I'm talking myself a little bit out of Tyreek here. How his spikier profile is better in other formats than the eliminator. Maybe locking up elite tight end is a bit stronger in eliminator here. And I guess you could go the running back route with like Hampton or Kyron. Kyron signing a 3-year deal this week, $33 million, I think it was, something like that. Just kind of like fortifying his stance in that backfield. But yeah, I think I want to go McBride here because the Hampton, Slater stuff coupled with Najee being back at practice, we might be a little high on it, even though we have lots of reasons to be excited about him. And I thought he looked, fine in the limited touches that he got in the Hall of Fame game. But let's go ahead and take elite tight end in this format. Nez has talked about elite tight end in this format being nice. I fully agree with the draft assist here in the solver to just take James Cook. It does feel like, the quarterbacks the running backs get pushed up in this format. You traditionally wouldn't pick him here. You could maybe push it around the corner when this guy already has 2 running backs here. But given the fact that we started Nico and Amon-Ra, I do think it's time to mix in a running back in the eliminator format and eliminator ass pick right there. We got a weekly winners here with a Nico and Neighbors start. We got 2 picks to make. I think at least one of them should be a running back. Solver likes Devontae Adams. I like that. I'm good to do like Devontae Adams and James Cook here again. I do think Ken Walker, his ADP in weekly winners is like, it's a bit, it speaks to the format and it's like a bit high, but I do think like it should be mirrored in BBM. Like Ken Walker and James Cook should be closer in BBM. Now, whether it's this side of the board or that side of the board, I don't particularly have a stance on how it works around those other, wide receiver targets. But like, I do think their ADPs should be closer. And I think it probably should be, mid 40s. So let's take Adams first and then see what the solver says for us. It likes Jackson Smith and Jigba. I have a hard time doing 4 wide receivers in weekly winners, especially in half PPR. I don't know. It caps. Like you you want to be playing running back in your flex the vast majority of the time. And the data associated with our daily contest like echoes those sentiments. So like why I think I want to be I think I want to be winning at running back in some capacity. Let's take Cook again here. This will be kind of a boring pick. It's just the front end of a draft board here. Justin Jefferson is falling in rooms right now. Just because of this nugget here, remains sideline, isn't practicing, hamstring. I mean, it's early. He's a stud. You hate to hear hamstring associated with a guy, but we're so effing early that I'm not fully ready to take him out of that like core top 6. That core top 6 is slowly becoming top 7 with Christian McCaffrey in there. Yeah, but that core top 6 here, he is kind of like that 6-7 debate between CMC and Jefferson right now as he falls a bit in rooms. I'm going to hashtag buy the dip here, even though it is just in line with ADP. Okay, and then we got this one to wrap around the corner there after we just took the Travis Hunter pick there. Probably want to take a running back. We have done a really good job here of stacking all the week 8 buys to start and then a back weighted buy for Kittle there. Tacking on David Montgomery to go alongside Amon-Ra might cap the ceiling of your team in weekly winners, where it's kind of like a ping-ponging effect, where it's like it's actually not working in tandem for one isolated week. It's giving you outs at multiple weeks. So I actually kind of like the idea of DeAndre Swift a little bit more. That being said, the correlation is strong, and it is another week 8 buy, and the solver likes it. So kind of a tough decision here. I do think it probably should be running back, though, in this format. Let's go with Swift. I think there is also an element with the Chicago stuff that, like, everyone who gets drafted in these drafts, like, somewhat early from Chicago is of the pass catching variety. And if you just, like, usurp all those points that week from the running back position, you knock out a lot of teams that are spending high draft capital on, Rome and Burden and etc. So, yeah. All right. Those are all the ones we had on the clock. As you guys can see, we got a bunch going here. I think we got about 50 slows right now. Trying not to do slow BBMs, but mixed them in when the promo ran. So, yeah. Let's try and fill BBM here real quick. 20-second clocks. We'll see how we're doing. Oh, perfect. Last one in. Not a time to wait in the world. This is perfect. Talk our way through a BBM here and then call it a show. As I alluded to earlier, this is Friday, August 8th. So we haven't had the full week of the first full week of preseason here, preseason week 1, outside of the Hall of Fame game from last week. So, yeah, if I'm missing some stuff when you guys are watching this on Saturday based on the action on Friday night there, apologies. But yeah, this is the pre-recorded nature of it. You guys can laugh at how dumb I was if something changes drastically between the next days. I'm not seeing any friends and family, so this is kind of cool doing this mix of pre-recorded drafts versus on-stream drafts, because I'm so accustomed to drafting with the same people over and over again who are watching the show, the 250 guys who turn out every single day trying to hop in these drafts with us. I don't see any of you guys in here right now. I'm sure they're friends of the shows, but not regulars of the show in here right now. So this will be fun. This will be fun here. We roll the 105. I don't know. I've been talking draft slot stuff. A lot of people have been saying a lot of smart things with the back end of the draft board, how, it feels like you get 2 round 1 picks at the back of the draft board this year because of the tier break at about pick 18, that sort of thing. I'm just going to give it one last zoom so we can see the entirety of the draft board there. But I kind of like this front end here, man. I like this 103. I like this 104. I basically just like getting CD Like, I'm really bullish on CeeDee Lamb right now. Um, let's do Jahmyr Gibbs here. Let's do Jahmyr Gibbs. Let's ape into a little bit of that FUD. We just took Justin Jefferson on the other one there. I think the bull case for Jahmyr Gibbs obviously is what we saw at the tail end of last year. Now, can that happen when you remove both coordinators from the team, with David Montgomery being fully healthy now? Can he run that back, or are we kind of like wish casting a little bit? Can they have the highest running back usage and success rate as a team yet again? Time will tell. Time will tell. But I love the ceiling outcome case for Jahmyr Gibbs. Just go burr in a up tempo offense that goes for it on fourth a shit ton and plays indoors. Maybe it was the perfect storm last year, and now we're buying the top a little bit here. But let's fuck around, find out, and see how this one turns out. But what I was saying with the front end of the draft board is, I'm very bullish on CeeDee Lamb, and I'm very bullish on getting that kind of like Dak stack stuff going. So what I really like is the players that come back to me, in particular, Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs, like Chase Brown, that tier of running back tethered to the elite wide receivers at the front in Chase and Lamb and sometimes Jefferson kind of deal. I mean, I don't want to discredit Justin Jefferson just because of hamstring. He obviously belongs in that tier. But yeah, back end of draft boards changing a lot. As you guys can see here, Genty went a whopping 3 for -1 with the first team offense last night. Nothing to see there. Would have preferred to see him rip off a 25-yarder, but yeah, nothing to see there. But your standard 18 go, and then Jonathan Taylor goes, which is kind of unfortunate. I think I'm going to do Bucky Irving here because I think I will like one of the wide receivers that comes back in the third more than one of the running backs, because these running backs are going to run off in front of us. Solver is telling me Lad there. I don't know how much Keenan Allen affects Lad. Maybe it's a little bit of a downgrade because of the overlap in the slot stuff. And basically, Keenan Allen has to play the slot these days. And Lad had some great production out of the slot. But Lad is, he's great across the board and he can kind of play everywhere. We don't want to pigeonhole him as a slot receiver. But if there's anyone to have a little bit of fun around him right now, it's him. So who knows? Maybe these drafters at the end get a little scared on the fall and let him fall back. But no such case. Falls to 23. Our RB draft capital bucket is almost full already by spending that on the top two there. I'm not sure that I have a Gibbs plus Bucky Irving start yet this season. I think I prefer Jonathan Taylor to Bucky Irving, so that's kind of like the target I'm always hoping for. And I'm kind of hoping Lad goes here and JT stays there till 20. But that's just that might just be a bad player take. Actually was watching the drills the other day of, practice drills, nothing to take away from them and stuff, but just watching out of general football enjoyment interest, right? And I was kind of shocked how big Rachaad White and Sean Tucker look beside Bucky Irving. Like, we knew he wasn't like the biggest dude in the world, but like I was shocked looking how big they looked beside him. Damn, I would have loved that T. Higgins fall there. I think Devontae Adams is a good pick here if we knew Matthew Stafford's health was entirely intact. We do not. So maybe pulling up elite quarterback. Oh, shit. My bad. I talked myself into not getting elite quarterback. We got Garrett Wilson. Speaking of camp stuff, had a couple nasty grabs in camp the other day. I'm a little bearish on Garrett Wilson, and Garrett Wilson is falling back to the right-hand side of the board. Our Discord community and our video chat community and comment section has been talking a lot recently about like how different a bet is he right now than Mike Evans, who goes, 10 picks later sometimes at this like 4.2, 4.03 kind of level there. Yeah, I think I probably would have preferred to pull up Adams there. Not in love with this start, and not to the fault of the solver there. The solver was telling me a different course of action than Garrett Wilson. That was my fault on the auto pick while I was chatting away there. All right, we got to right this ship, though. We got to right this ship. We are starting to see the trend, guys, of the purple getting cranked in the third round here. As you can see, 3 of the elite, kind of like the big 4 in quotations of the rushing plus floor ceiling combo quarterbacks going inside of the first 33 picks now. 3 of the 4. Hurts usually goes this side of the board with the A.J. Brown drafter. So we'll see what Hoodrich does here. That'd be a really nice start for him. There's that Ken Walker being pulled up that I was discussing. He's been sidelined this week with a foot thing, but everything from camp has been really glowing about him and the outside zone run scheme and his ability to catch passes. Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so Hoodrich passes on the Jalen Hurts pick. We are going to be dealing with a potential Tetaroa, maybe Worthy, maybe Pickens. We could do a little team stack with Jamison Williams. The reason that the solver is suggesting Rashee Rice is because my ADP versus ranking setting that I have it at right now. So that's why I have the ranking number up here from ETR. So I know Worthy's ranked ahead. Let's go ahead and take Worthy here. 4th round, mid 4th round Worthy share is a thing of the past. Gives us a backdoor stack to that Mahomes stuff. 4 picks past ADP. That could break so right there. So the drafting gods that be giveth and taketh there by getting Xavier Worthy to come back after we effed up that Garrett Wilson pick there. Oh, well, there's no reason to think Garrett Wilson. I mean, let's think about Garrett Wilson just in a vacuum here. Like 1K yards every year, gets the extension. He's done so much with so little at the quarterback position. 1,100 yards, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, flirting with that 165 through 200 fantasy points. Like just lazy stuff, but literally a model of consistency when the team has been bad and the quarterback play has been bad, right? So, why can't he take a leap forward with his college teammate if Justin Fields can be, anything remotely close to what we saw in 3 of the 6 starts last year or whatever it was. Devonta Smith goes there. Connor goes in front of us. It does feel like we should take a wide receiver here, but I'm not opposed to putting ourselves in a corner with a James Cook fall. Let's do it. Let's see if we can recover. Let's put ourselves in a corner with this James Cook fall. We get 8 picks of ADP value. We have 3 running backs with a lot of capital spent in the first 5 picks here. Maybe not financial advice, but let's see if we can back ourselves into a corner and build like a 4, maybe 5 running back team. I guess the FUD right now around James Cook is just, not practicing, hold in style thing. Maybe Ray Davis is actually better than him. Maybe he actually doesn't get paid, like that sort of deal. That's kind of like the narrative street. It's also the guy who led the position in touchdowns last year on the ground and on the offense with the highest implied totals out there. So I can see it both ways. I would be lying to you if I didn't say I was like a little scared. I don't think there's like real legit holdout miss games potential, but there is some element of like maybe the team just goes like, yeah, you're not that special a talent comparative to what we already have in this room with Ray Davis at a cheaper price point. You're more expendable than we give credit. You only play, he's not a true bell cow, right? He only plays like 56 to 68% of the snaps on a given week. So maybe they're just like, yeah, this is a little bit more expendable than other running backs that you think you deserve to be paid amongst. I kind of trying to get some more RJ Harvey and Trayvon Henderson in my life, as you guys saw with those exposures. Most of it's been in the Badge Bros Brawl, not gonna lie. But yeah, trying to get a little bit more in my life there. We need a wide receiver here. Debo is popping for the solver at the top there. His ranking in terms of ETR is a little bit lower than Jennings and Judy, but I think any of these four at the top are fine. Let's take a Debo share. No overlapping buys. If we had taken Judy, there was an overlapping buy. Yeah, we got to start pissing in this room here after the way in which we started. Addison's suspension came down this week. 3 games for Addison. ADP is 71. He goes at 69 in this one. I've seen him fall, mid 80s in some stream rooms where nobody wants to kind of like fall on that sword. I don't know. I see the good and the bad associated with it, kind of like the Rice conversation that we have, that we expect those offenses to be good. We know he's good. And missing the first 3 games is better than missing the last 3 games in the style of contests we play. Now, in the eliminator format, yeah, I'm probably not touching either of them. In the marathon, maybe not either, right? And in weekly winners, I'm going to want a discount, right? Because they're not usable for 3 of the weeks, guaranteed. So, yeah, but in our contest specifically here, BBM, I think it's fine. Tyler goes there. We could start thinking, wow, we got a big Juwan Jennings fall here. I like Matthew Golden. Extremely bullish stuff out of camp right now. Interesting to see that the ETR rank still has Jaden Reed over Golden. Juwan Jennings had this kind of like hold in situation, and now he has like an injury in parentheses that's like him trying to iron out his contract is my more so read on the situation. Sideline with the calf again. It's not a bullish thing to read there, but like, yeah, I don't know. Ayuk's timeline's not great. It's not new news that he's not going to be ready for week 1. This has been known for some time. He's going to start on the pup. He's dropping like a rock in rooms. Maybe you prefer Pearsall to Jennings 1v1, but they did this last year with Ayuk, and then they smoothed out the contract situation, and then Ayuk looked pretty decent to start the year at times. But like, I don't know. You get 10 picks past ADP in a room where we need wide receiver help. Yeah. But I do think we are in the era of Igbuka and Golden pushing into the 6th round. This room is a little bit of an anomaly compared to what I've been seeing this week in rooms where those guys are kind of like, getting big time buzz from both their quarterbacks and from their coach speak stuff, and they're getting big time buzz, and the quote unquote sharper tapped in newsrooms, they're pushing them up a decent amount there. Just noticing Isaiah Pacheco's profile picture here there kind of looks like a little bit hardo, looks a little mean. That's really unfortunate that Mahomes doesn't come back to us. He goes at pick 86, which is like well ahead of ADP. This might be one of those recreational quarterback thirsty rooms. Kelsey goes way ahead of ADP too. So we're not going to get our stacking partner there, which is a little unfortunate. Chris Godwin continues to fall. I don't have a ton of Jaden Higgins in my life. I'm so afraid that if I take Chris Godwin here, we're going to end up with another Baker double. I'm so afraid of it. But it does look like a little bit of a tear break. Let's switch it up. Let's take Jaden Higgins. I know he's third. He was fourth or third on the recommended player list there. So it's not a crazy reach by any stretch. It's only 4 picks ahead of ADP. We talked about it this week. He just seems to be like the most, the Texans are under talked about and under reported on, like just in a vacuum. But like, I haven't heard much about Higgins since like big board season when everybody was just talking up like, yeah, he's big. He's good. He's athletic. Like, like those kind of things where it's just like, I haven't heard any like real concrete analysis. I haven't seen a ton of him. He could definitely be a camp riser and preseason riser here, but he's just been one of like the most stagnant ADPs all offseason. And it's partly because nobody really knows what to do with the Texans because their offensive line is supposed to be tragic. This year, they moved on from their 2 best offensive linemen, and that was like their biggest concern last year was offensive line play. CJ Stroud's good quarterback. Like he's not like the most exciting dude in the world, but he's like, I've heard other people say it that he's like a point guard out there, like just ball distribution, ball out. I don't know. What if you just have 2 big ass X style wide receivers on the field at all times between him and Nico Collins, and we just see what happens, right? So kind of fun. Tracy's been moving up this week there. Baker goes, Dak goes. Man, we might get caught at quarterback if we do not take Fields or Purdy here. I kind of like the idea of taking Fields over Purdy just because we made the early Garrett Wilson play there, and we know there's nobody else to backstack with Purdy once Ayuk goes. And there's like basically no second string running backs we really want to click on right now with them both being hurt. So it's kind of like, do I want Purdy to Jennings as like my ceiling stack? Or do I want Justin Fields to Garrett Wilson? Because if Garrett Wilson's going to go nuke this year, it literally has to go with Justin Fields. It's not going to be the Tyrod Taylor show and, the Jets somehow win 10 games and make a postseason run with Tyrod at the helm and Garrett Wilson goes for 1,400 yards and 9 scores, right? Like that's just the range of outcomes is like a more tethered bet. Whereas Juwan Jennings can go quite decent this year and Purdy not pan out as QB 10, right? Also a little bit more floor ceiling combo with the rushing upside from Fields. Luther Burden goes there. Jordan Mason was a follower in our room here. Could have been a nice little click for us. He fell past ETN, Dobbins, and Tracy. That's rare. That doesn't normally happen. This is quite the quarterback heavy room here. I mean, we're in round 10 and all these dudes who usually go in, round 11 are already off the board. And it was all started by the early Mahomes, the early Kyler. Yeah, there goes Goff. So it's good that we addressed quarterback there. Scatabo getting some love here. Sharbs could be fun. I think we should address tight end, though. I think the pick of Sharbs or Loveland is fine. I want to do this Loveland pick, though, here. I don't want to get fully caught missing this sweet spot pocket of tight end. Something we talked about on Wednesday's show that I really like this little pocket of like tight end 9 through like Hawkinson's getting a little bit steamed right now with the Addison suspension. Andrew's getting a little bit of steam because of the likely injury. So that makes sense. But then this next little pocket is Warren, Loveland. I want to get one of those 2 kind of like ceiling shot rookies in this area. And then we can take 2 to close out the draft. Or if like Dalton Kincaid comes back to us, we could take 1 more ceiling shot and then just shut it down. Right? That's kind of where I'm at. There's also like a little dry spell in terms of ADP with wide receivers. Like just wide receivers not going. Uh, there's just like not that much yellow on the board through here. Like we're not going to want Hollywood Brown on a worthy team without Mahomes. I mean, never say never, but like not really. Like not in a vacuum. It's not what we're searching for here. Christian Kirk we could do and then set up the CJ, double, but CJ double without Nico doesn't feel like amazing to be honest. Trey Harris is a faller right now, so yeah. I do think it's worth noting that obviously when I'm using no rankings of my own, that Keenan Allen, ETR's ranking 127 would be about this pick right here. And you can do it with Justin Herbert as like a mini stack in 11, 12, a decent amount. Scatabo is falling because of the injury in parentheses. Dude, I think quarterback's gonna run. I think I'm just gonna pull up CJ here. And if Christian Kirk comes back, that's great. If Christian Kirk doesn't come back, so what? We could do like, like a Schultz at the end or something. But I don't want to risk like the Nico drafter already does have 2 QBs, but just look at this room and the way things are going, like all this purple. I'm just reading the room dynamics right now and being like, if we don't want to be left with like Fields, Richardson, and Russ Wilson as our QB room, taking CJ there made a lot more sense, right? Like Christian Kirk is way more apt to fall in a room like this because he's not like a sexy click than it is to that CJ would, right? Like I don't know if there's a non-zero chance that Slippery Slick is going to just go ahead and add a third QB there. I mean, he very well could just add a third QB right here with Trevor Lawrence now. And that would kind of just like prove our thesis right. Judkins goes there, 131. I still don't really have a share of him yet. There was some, I don't know if you want to call it bullish. There was some news this week that he wanted to expedite the timeline of the trial and fast track it, and then his appeal to do so was denied. So does that mean you push the legality to 2026 and now the Browns are like, well, he's innocent until proven guilty, and he might just be on the wrong end of a conspiracy or someone out to get him. So here we go. Let's sign him and let him play football for us and then deal with the legal ramifications next year. I don't know. I think there's a non-zero chance that that's a range of outcome right now. And I mean, he's still, this is a good pick. We get Dalton Kincaid. It's a 10 out of 10 on the solver here. We get him paired with James Cook. It's a little bit of a bet on Buffalo in general. And we were talking about if he came back last pick that we would take him. Hayden kind of talked me into it this week, just given the landscape of the Bills as well. Like, sure, they spread the ball around a shit ton, but, Khalil Shakur's doing side work in a walking boot, might not be ready. High ankle sprain for a slot receiver. Not great, Bob. Who's the number one beneficiary of that? Benefactor? Yeah, benefactor of that would be probably Dalton Kincaid, running some of those slot routes, that sort of thing. Elijah Moore's banged up. Curtis Samuel's banged up. Joshua Palmer, professional ass wide receiver, but like we don't want to get like crazy excited about Joshua Palmer right now. So, yeah. We got a 2-3-5-2 cooking. We could be done at tight end. We could be done at quarterback, but we might tack on, who, if we can buy the Dipperino out here. Tootin is kind of popping for us. Interesting. They want us to add, a Dallas Goedert faller. Maybe I got to turn down the ADP importance. No, ADP weight is at low right now. So, yeah. Tootin, it hasn't been a great week for Tootin, just in general. Other guys getting steamed up around him. But like, let's think about our running back room here. We got Gibbs, Bucky, and Cook. That's like the fortified trio at the top. They're carrying the mail for us. Do I want the super fast, explosive, pass catching Liam Cohen offense Tootin, or do I want Sampson, who, a little bit less draft capital? Some people liked him, some people didn't. May or may not have to deal with Judkins. We have no idea who the quarterback is. All their quarterbacks are hurt also. There's that. They had to bring in Tyler Huntley to play this weekend for the preseason game. They are the lowest implied team total of any team in football on a game, like average implied team total as of right now. Do I want that running back on that team? Or do I want to just buy the dip on like, hey, maybe the cream rises to the top with Tootin? We've seen enough with the previous regime with Travis Etienne to just be like, yeah, that ain't it. Tank Bigsby doesn't catch a ton of passes in general, even though he was catching some in their like 7-a-side drills and stuff like that. Traditionally speaking, hasn't been a big receiving back. So if Tootin just has like third down plus 5 carries a game to start the year, well, like I want to take that ceiling potential more so than I want to do like, oh, maybe Sampson's the lead back on like an awful football team. So just kind of thinking through the macro lens of that, independent of ADP. I don't know. I was also not like a huge buy the Tootin guy early. So now that the price is more palatable, it does feel better. We get some week 17 correlation here with the Chargers stuff, with the Houston matchup there. So we could do the Quentin Johnson bring back. But is Keenan Allen still available? No, he went. Okay, I just wanted to confirm there. Let's take Jalen McMillions. Let's scroll down here. ETR has a better ranking on him other than QJ. I'm a little scared on QJ with the Keenan Allen signing there. We do have a little bit of correlation with Bucky Irving, so we make a little bit of a team bet. Jalen McMillions is just like a dude I haven't done a ton of this year because Ibuka is getting, so much steam right now. I fall on the sword of Cade Otton for the backstack stuff frequently. Yeah, that ranking for McMillions kind of caught me off guard there. I didn't realize how high he was. So, yeah. Okay, 2-4-6-2. Fields, CJ Stroud, Gibbs, Bucky, Cook, Tootin, Garrett Wilson, Xavier Worthy, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, Jaden Higgins, Jalen McMillan, Loveland, Kincaid. Probably enough to shut it down at tight end. Probably enough to shut it down at quarterback, though I like to spend 5 at the onesies, especially when you look at these draft capital buckets right now, 6%, 8%. But we still got to do some more addressing of the wide receiver position here. How far is too far for QJ? 148, ETR rank of 177. He's here for us right now. I don't know, man. Let's stick to our guns and just tack on the ceiling potential of Anthony Richardson. We might have been able to get him fall a little bit further in this room, but the guy behind us only has one quarterback. I'm kind of hell-bent on getting the ceiling outcome potential of Anthony Richardson in my life. So let's go ahead and do that. We can also mix in a little skinny stack upcoming. I think this roster is going to use one more spot at the running back position and 2 more spots at the wide receiver. I think that's how I feel I should land the plane. Wide receiver feels just a little shaky for me. As you guys can see, I got this little X out because I have the positional limits. I'll go ahead and dock QB there. I'm not going to dock tight end just yet, but we'll see. Alec Pierce opens up a little bit of a stack. I also can scroll the F down to AD Mitchell. We could also do Jalen Knoll with the CJ stack. So, yeah. DJ Giddens, Taj Brooks. I think my last running back on this roster, I think I'm going to want him to be a little bit of the ceiling shot variety. And I think Woody Marks kind of fits that role, and he's correlated. There's a non-zero chance that a veteran still winds up there. There's a non-zero chance that the new coaching regime thinks that Dameon Pierce is a better fit schematically than he was in past years. Pierce ripped off like an 80-yard run last year, so he's got a little bit of that juice. But yeah, Sanders goes there. I think Woody Marks is like kind of just like a sharp way to bookend this. I think Taj Brooks is fine. I think DJ Giddens is fine. JCM is fine, although he just went. Krosky Merritt. I mean, let's do it. Let's do it. I think this is an intelligent way to take a potential zero at the back end of drafts when we're dealing with the $1 players. I mean, we're not looking for zeros. We're looking for breakouts. But like, just going back to the exercise we did 20 minutes ago, 25 minutes ago, looking at the draft board is the reality is there's a lot of effing zeros back here. So why not make the correlated bet when we've already got two pieces of Houston? Woody Marks with a little bit of catch passing profile there. People saw Keaton Mitchell run kind of nice last night. I mean, we talked about it on the preseason preview show that what the Ravens do in the preseason is run the fuck out of the football and run the fuck out of it decently. So that's what they did. And we got the higher home on both Mitchell and Rasheen Ali there for those thesis or that thesis in general. I don't think he's a 16-round pick. I think this is knee-jerk reaction. Is there some contingent upside to, you know, if anything ever happened to Derrick Henry because Justice Hill won't receive the quote-unquote full workload? Absolutely. Absolutely. But, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take AD Mitchell. Good draft capital last year. A guy that people thought should have gone higher in the draft. A guy that a lot of people were pounding the tables for the Bills to draft last year. He's getting a steady drumbeat out of camp. And then when he was in there with the quote unquote first team offense last night, I mean, yeah, he gets 6 targets like right away. Obviously, like no Pittman and stuff like that, but like there's a steady drumbeat right now around AD Mitchell, and that is just kind of one of the ones I'm choosing to believe. When I'm filtering through stuff and just tethered to Richardson. So like as we're going through this exercise, like everyone's kind of playing whack-a-mole with like the latest and greatest of news at the back end of these draft boards. We're just doing so in a correlated fashion. So we're doubling down on the notion. Not breaking the IQ model right now with this thesis, but just talking it through on the fly. Yeah, how are we gonna land this plane, guys? 3-5-7-2. I think it is wide receiver. I mean, JT Sanders is getting some buzz at camp. Schultz stacks up. I do just like Theo Johnson in a vacuum. Yeah. De'Ami Brown goes there. If Jalen Knowles there, I might just take him. Alec Io Manor goes there. Good medicine hat boy. I didn't realize that last year when he had that massive game at Stanford, he had the massive game. I think it was like 12, 303 or something like this, like 283. We could look it up. It was against Colorado and versus Travis Hunter. Now I have no idea how often they were across from one another or whatever. But I just found that very interesting. Kind of unfortunate there. Kind of unfortunate there that we get sniped on Noel. I think we need wide receiver more than a third tight end. I'm wanting to get a little bit of let's do this. It's not sexy. I want to get a little, what I was going to say is I want to get a little more Deontay Johnson, despite the reports of him showing up to camp, not in the fittest. But, he was getting some separation in some of the videos and stuff. I'll take it all with a grain of salt. I know the quarterback play is awful and I know the team's awful, but like Deontay Johnson, not zero chance, like based on what we saw from him the last 2 years, could still be good and could still go to someone who thinks he's good. Even if he's cut. Maybe nobody wants the headache based on what we saw last year, but I think he's an okay guy to start mixing in. ETR is really low on him though. Tesla looked good in the mainly with those crossers and over the middle routes in the Hall of Fame game. So a guy that we're kind of interested in there. A little weak at tight end, as you guys can see, that 6% allotment, and a little weak at wide receiver with the 43, despite getting up to 8. And that all stems from this James Cook baller pick. If we had just taken wide receiver there and taken like Jalen Waddle for like a little bit of a bring back off of our Buck stuff, this bucket comes down in the running back department and this goes up, and we would have been like kind of like perfectly balanced there. Still a little light at quarterback for what it's worth, but that's entirely fine when we have 3 ceiling shot options there. And then the tight end position, probably if we go with passing on James Cook, and then we take another back in the Higgins area, maybe just after that, we probably still end up with only 5 on this roster, and it's a little more balanced, but it's good to have this kind of build in your portfolio. I think that's my first Josh Reynolds share. I mean, it's not sexy. It's not fun. We're just looking for usable weeks on a team that has all its upside tethered to the running back position, more or less. We're just kind of looking for like some floor output, usable weeks at the back end of a draft there. And he's kind of penciled in as WR2, and the Mason Taylor stuff looks a little worse right now with the groin injury there. So he's going to have to be out there and catching balls. So when we're making a bet on the Jets to, effectively go Burr, because we took Wilson at ADP and we took Fields at ADP, well, why not just tack on, the presumed WR2 there, who seems to have vaulted Alan Lazard on the depth chart. Okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the draft reports here. Go ahead. That one gets auto-populated 2 minutes ago. Download that and open it up for you guys here so we can break that one down. Zoom out. Bang. All right. So a little bit of ADP value with that 13. A little bit of draft capital value with the 14. Not exactly like what we're like jumping up and down searching for in every single draft, because time will tell if those actually come to fruition, but it's nice to see the numbers in green. We got a nice big bet on Detroit there with Gibbs in the first round. As we alluded to, we got that Jets bet. We got to still somehow end up with the Tampa Bay bet, despite not having the Baker, Otton, and Evans and that sort of stuff combination that we had previously. We have this nice 1-3-5-0 through the first half of the draft there. We end with a 3-5-8-2. So kind of fun, pretty balanced in terms of the teams. Not a huge amount of correlation in terms of the playoff weeks there. Hayden and I were talking about it on Wednesday's show. Won't spoil that Go back and watch it. That one was presented by Solver as well. Thought it was a very good show, but just talking about how we might be falling into bad patterns by overweighting the bring back stuff. Bringbacks play better on larger rosters, i.e., best ball rosters, than daily slate rosters. But the research in which we've been doing in the daily stuff is really illuminating when it comes to bringbacks, guys. So I'm falling less and less in love with the notion and more in the bucket of that was quite results oriented thinking that just led past winners to getting, some good results. And it was more noise than signal. I don't think it's a bad thing. Let's say that. But a lot of shit has to go right for you to get a bring back there in week 17 that matters. He has to be the guy who gets you there first. Then he's also been like, I don't know. It's kind of an apples and oranges conversation that like a Tootin bring back on like a Richardson and AD Mitchell stack just doesn't matter at all. But if it was maybe like the front end of draft boards from a couple years ago where it's like CD Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown, well, they were both just super amazing, high projecting plays. It makes sense. Like the fact that they were just tethered to week 17 was just a bonus, right? So it's an interesting conversation. Anyways, I'm leaving my third eye open for these conversations right now. To break it all down, 3, 5, 8, 2. Fields, Stroud, Richardson still can't quit. Anthony Richardson, despite turning his pinky completely to the east last night, getting blown up on a blitz. Jahmyr Gibbs, Bucky Irving, James Cook, Bayshal Tootin, and Woody Marks. Garrett Wilson, Xavier Worthy, Debo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, Jaden Higgins, Jalen McMillions, AD Mitchell, and Josh Reynolds, first share of the bunch there. Colson Loveland, a.k.a. Love Porta, and Dalton Kincaid, who Hayden got me excited about, and the Bills' recent depth chart got me excited about. 4 rookies, 4 sophomores, a little extra capital at running back comparative to usual, but all in all, decently balanced. We worked our way out of the hole. On the sucks or fucks scale, I think it's leaning to the fucks department more than the sucks. But in terms of like on a scale, I think she's about a 6.5 in this one. She being the draft. I just think this is about it just wasn't my favorite draft ever, but I think we made some smart decisions around it. And it all started with my accidental auto pick of the Garrett Wilson there. Maybe we needed a little bit more of a ceiling shot than Josh Reynolds at the end there. But yeah, not my favorite. Definitely not my worst. If you guys been paying attention this week, definitely not my worst. But yeah. Anyways, fun show, guys. Hope you guys enjoy this one. It will be dropping for the Membies late Friday night, early Saturday morning, and then it'll be live to everyone by Saturday evening there. Shout out to the Solver for making this possible. I love using the Best Ball Assistant and using the Best Ball Explorer for all of these drafts. Makes it so easy to look at our portfolio, track the ADP stuff like we just did, and then find out in real time kind of like where our discrepancies are between correlation and ADP and yada, yada. You guys see it play out in real time multiple times a week here. Anyways, that's the end. Everybody's favorite time of the show, the end. Peace. Back next week. Keep drafting those Bad Bros Brawls for us.